thank you for this opportunity to serve our community, Lord. I ask you to please be with each and every one of us and those that are not here.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jack, I didn't know that you were going to have your big. Well, we've been blessed, we've been blessed, and we'll put you down for a minute. Thank you. Welcome, everyone, to the May Commission meeting. And at this time, we'll have our roll call. We have 20 present. Thank you. Before we, regarding the agenda, I have one addition to the agenda. That is concerning the replacement of Mr. Warren Walker to the Ambulance Authority by Dr. David Florence. That is a recommendation of the Manchester Caucus. So I'd like to add that as an agenda addition.
Where are you going to place that?
8B. And we'll make other 8C.
Move to accept with that change.
Have a motion to, sir?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All right, all in favor? Let's vote, please. Yes, thank you. Item 6, review and approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. Have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Commissioner Cunningham, second by Commissioner Carter. Discussion? All right, let's vote, please. Commissioner Cunningham? Yes, motion carries. Thank you. Roxanne?
Number 7, resolutions of memorial, sympathy, and commendation. I don't have any. 8, elections, appointments, and confirmations. A, notaries.
Chairman, I move that the notaries on the list dated May 12th be approved.
So, motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion by, second by Commissioner Jack. Discussion. All right, let's vote, please.
8B, Ambulance Authority.
Yes, due to scheduling conflicts with Mr. Walker, he's asked to be removed from ambulance authority in the Manchester caucus. I'd like to recommend Dr. David Florence.
We have that recommendation and a motion.
Yes.
Second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Douglas. Discussion.
This is for how long? What term?
So for the unexpired term of Warren Walker.
Yeah.
2016. That's the expiration of this term, so it will be at the normal appointment, which is July. July.
Any other comments or discussion?
Mr. Chair, would you
Yes.
repeat the motion?
Motion was to replace Warren Walker, at recommendation of the Manchester caucus, to replace Warren Walker with Dr. Florence to the ambulance authority. Is that close enough? Mr. Jones? We have a motion second. Any other discussion? Let's vote, please. Thank you, Manchester caucus, for making that recommendation. I think that could be a plus for the ambulance authority having a medical professional on that authority to advise. We would thank Dr. Ford for his willingness to serve. Motion carried. Okay.
8C, I don't have any. 9, unfinished business. Is there any?
Any unfinished business?
Okay. 10, new business. A, Charlie Curtis, the Executive Director of the County Commissioners Association, is here to speak to you all for a few minutes.
Charlie, we appreciate your coming tonight, and you wanted to address the commission body, so welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members. I thank you for the opportunity to be here. I called ahead of Roxanne, and she bent over backwards to make it where it could work, and I really appreciate her doing that. It's certainly an honor and a privilege to be standing before you tonight. I actually work for you, county commissioners. I got 1,654 commissioners in the 95 counties that I represent. I'm your liaison back at the Tennessee General Assembly. In 1978, I was elected fire chief. I was a volunteer fire chief at home. In 1982, I was elected to the county commission. In 1986, I was elected as county executive. In 94, I was elected to Tennessee General Assembly. Elected 10 terms to Tennessee General Assembly. I decided I wasn't going to run again. About 2 or 3 months after I announced it, someone approached me and said, "Would you be interested in being the executive director of the County Commissioners Association?" I said, "On the surface, yes, but I want to pray about it and talk to my wife about it." But ultimately, they ended up hiring me, so I'm working for you. And the main reason I came tonight was just to let you know I'm not some dignitary or some bureaucrat stuck off in a building somewhere. I'm just an old country boy. If you want to call me and ask me something, if I can help you with anything, I will. Some of you here have contacted me before, but if you're having trouble getting a hold of CTAS or anyone, if you let me know, I can cut through that. I don't know everything. I promise you I don't. But I know enough people I can get most answers. I know who to call and get that support. I took the privilege of handing my card out to each one of you. It's got all my contact information. It's got my office number, my email, my home phone, and my cell phone. You can call me anytime you need me. If you want to call me at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning, that's fine with me. But my wife's gonna be mad for 2 or 3 days if she does. I'm gonna tell you up front. The legislative report this year, there was 3,864 bills and resolutions filed by the House and the Senate this year. There's a board of county commissioners, 20-something commissioners that I work directly under, and we reviewed those bills that impacted counties. They found 18 that they thought would benefit counties. And of those 18, 12 of them became law this year. They found 31 they felt were going to be detrimental to county government. And we worked as hard as we could, but 7 of them still became law. We were able to hold off 24 of them. And next year we'll roll up our sleeves and do it all over again. But I've tried to keep you all informed on a weekly basis to where everything was at. One thing before I let it slip on one track. Tonight, I hope you all got the email. CTAS is doing a webinar tonight, training on budgets. I encourage you, if you get out here and feel like it, to get on that and watch that website. But that's where they're going to start doing a lot of their training. Many of you work, you can't take off, you can't travel to Oxford, Nashville, somewhere to take training. And those, there's 8 field reps from CTAS, they can't be in all 95 counties anymore. So doing these webinars are going to give them the ability to talk to everyone across the state and give you some valuable training. So I encourage you to take part in those when you've got time. Before I sit down, I want to share a couple of things with you. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I tell people, they trained me how to eliminate my problems, but you can't do that in this walk of life. So I've had to develop another way. Several years ago, I read something and it really helped me in my dealing with my fellow man. And it's a real simple statement, but it's really profound. It says, speak well of your enemies, you made them. And you think about what I just said. If somebody hates you or despises you, you may not cause it, but you had a little something to do with it. You could have said something in a different way, or you could walk off. But just think about that. We make enough enemies in this walk of life without going out of the way to do it. Try to deal with people in a civil manner, if at all possible. And the last thing I want to share you is something biblical. If you have to twist or turn the truth to get what you want in life, God's not in it. And if God's not in it, trust me, you don't need it. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you. I appreciate the job each one of you are doing. I know you're taking away from your family, but this is important. County Commissioner, you're on the front line. When you go to the store, you're seeing your constituents. When you go to work, you're seeing your constituents. But this is where the rubber meets the road, and I appreciate y'all throwing your hand in the ring and doing that. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Appreciate you.
Is there a pattern to when these webinars will be?
This is the very first one, and it's going from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock tonight.
Hope they'll be at night.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And then my game plan, and of course I don't run CTAS, I'm just getting the advisement. I want this stuff archived, where if you watch one and 3 months later or 2 months later, I'm going to go back, I missed that. You can watch it all over again at your own leisure. So that's what my game plan is. But it's giving each of you the opportunity to email in questions. They're not going to answer them right then, but the field staff, CTAS field staff, everyone who's got Coffee County, they would come and talk to you and answer your questions about that. But I encourage all of you to use that. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Charlie, will you be checking with CTAS to see if they will be archiving this tonight? Because I'm sure throughout the 95 counties, probably other county commissions meeting tonight, it'd be good for our folks to be able to pull that up later.
When they hired me, I committed to go to all 95 counties. I thought this is going to be a piece of cake. I'll get it done in a year. Then I got to looking. There's 42 counties meeting on the 3rd Monday. And I'm a little slow. It didn't take me long to figure out there's only 12 3rd Mondays in a year. So it's going to take me 3 years. But yes, sir, I will. Because they're not going to have them when it's convenient for everyone. But I will check on it.
All right, thank you. Charlie, I appreciate you serving the role you are. He is effective and committed to his task, and he's there to represent you and help us all. So we appreciate that. Thank you for being here tonight. If you want to hang around, you can. If you want to get home to see your bride, have supper, you can do that too. But
10B, 2015-18, resolution to prohibit resale of entertainment admission tickets or tokens.
do we have a motion?
Since this came through legislative, I'll make a motion to approve this.
Motion by Mr. Kelly. Have a second?
Second.
second by Commissioner Jones. Discussion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to hear from the county attorney that we absolutely do have the authority to do this.
That's a lot of
It's
people on
put
the
in
spot.
as a civil fine, but we don't have, we can't pass criminal legislation or anything of that nature. So it's put in as a civil fine. I guess it could be debated, but if you want an absolute, I can't give you that. What we've done in this, now, the cities can, and we have in essence adopted by resolution or proposed for adoption of resolution, basically the same action that the city's already adopted. And this is to follow up, help make theirs more effective so they're not just stepping across the line and doing the county what they were doing in the city. I can't tell you that down the line somebody might say that it couldn't be done, but it's a $50 civil fee for it. I think it's probably got a likelihood of standing.
Commissioner, if you would please, I'd try to add to that. Nashville has this in several areas. They don't have it necessarily across the entire city, but I know it has been challenged there and been upheld in event areas. They have, like around the Bridgestone Arena and around LP Field and those areas, you can't do any of the ticket sales except through the regular ticket offices in those locations. And I'll add to that because what was brought forward to legislative, it's really being considered here for more of a safety measure than any other reason. The issues that have come up in the past is that we have people who set up all over along the streets, and we have cars stopping and people jumping out cars or running across traffic. And we've had several people over the years hit trying to do that, to run over to get a ticket or sell a ticket. And it's not prohibiting the sale of it, it's just prohibiting it being done in that method. People could still get online and sell it and go through other means, but it wouldn't let them just stand along the roadsides and risk the traffic problems and the other congestion that's going on. And we did speak to the sheriff about this, and he indicated, it's a real issue for him if it all moves from the city limits and moves it all out into the county. He's concerned whether they can really address that and manage it in the volume of people that would be alongside the roads up and down through there. And this has generated a lot of fights over the years on, people running up and everybody wanting a ticket and then getting into brawls over who's going to get the ticket and those things. So that was the real reason we brought it forward.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Yes, sir.
I was just thinking, with all our sheriff's department has to deal with during the Bonneville Festival, give them one more thing to do, I think if the sheriff is on the board with it.
He fully supported this. He asked for it.
Thank you, Ms. Tom. Any other discussion, comments? If not, let's vote, please.
Not that I'm doing this on purpose.
Motion passes. That thing. Thank you.
Resolution 2015-19, resolution to opt out of 2009 International Property Maintenance Code.
We've got our code director here tonight, Mr. Clark, to be available for comments. We have questions on that, but do we have a motion? Motion to approve. Motion by Commissioner Morris. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Meyer. Discussion.
First question I have, Mr. Mayor, in answering one, we'll answer it for two. The sponsors on this, only one of which is the current county commissioner. I thought these required sponsorship from county commissioners.
That is true. Must be two commissioners.
Then I would ask that those who brought it forward, one of which is already in it, but Commissioner Meyer, would you be the other sponsor on this particular piece since you seconded it? Thank you, sir.
So thank you for that, for catching that, Mr. Gavin. So you're the second sponsor, Mr. Meyer? Okay. Good point. Glad you helped. Further discussion?
I've got a question on this, and I don't know if it's because this is coming forward or what sparked it, but I have heard from a lot of people recently who are experiencing problems that relate to this property maintenance code, and particularly people who feel like they're being sort of abandoned, that they're in county areas, not city areas, and that they have built houses in subdivisions and invested a large amount of money and now have no means to help protect their property values. And I've spoken to two families who have been trying to sell their homes for 2 years now, and because of conditions in their neighborhood across from them, the realtors won't even list their houses at this point to try to sell their homes. So I think this is a problem that we need to address. I don't know that they have done the right thing. I realize when I read the attorney's opinion, there's a statement in there that says they have to file a written complaint. So I have those folks' phone numbers. I will contact them and tell them that if this stands. But I guess I'm going to say I'm hoping we'll really consider this, particularly on this piece, that it does do something to help preserve. And I think it also helps us when we try to attract businesses. And if you're going to bring executives into the area and they're going to build or buy property and make large investments for their own personal family and homes, I like them to be able to do that across the county and not just feel like they have to come to a city, because we want to maintain our property value across the county. And I think this is one means of doing it.
Thank you, Mr. Gavin. And I know that the Planning Commission did review this quite extensively, and we certainly, that is a valid concern on part of our residents, and we do get calls into this office and the codes office. And one of our big concerns is Mr. Clark does not have the time he's just one of them. And we don't have the money in the budget for that. So that's one thing we want to present tonight. It's going to take some money for that enforcement if that's what the county legislative body wants to do. That is a valid concern, and our concern is the money required to adequately enforce that and support the courts.
I do have an additional comment, but I'll wait and see if there's others who want to comment first.
Mr. Mayor, would it be
Yes, sir.
appropriate for Mr. Husky to maybe elaborate a little bit more on the liability of it? I think that's been one of the issues that I've heard discussed, that county being liable for not enforcing if the law stays.
Well, I guess you've got a copy of this memorandum that I sent to the mayor. Really, that didn't address whether or not the 2009 International Property Maintenance Code should be maintained and deleted. I was just asking to draw a resolution on that one to delete it, to vacate it. But the issue I was addressed to was they discovered that the 2008-36 resolution that we had dealt with property maintenance. And so I was asked if that one should be deleted too. And there was that question of whether or not the adoption of the maintenance code 2009 vacated the other one. So I looked at it, and they do overlap a little bit, but primarily the effect of the resolutions we had earlier, the 2008-36, dealt more with the exterior of the property and the appearance, whereas the other dealt more with the structural and the electronics and those type of things. So I didn't find that, didn't leave that the adoption of 2009 vacated the other one because they had too many things differently. And then the issue was, should that one be deleted because of the lack of manpower to carry it out? And my real feeling was it really shouldn't be, it didn't need to be because of the wording in the resolution itself, that it did require somebody to come forward and at least call it to their attention in writing. You're supposed to keep the name private, who did, unless the judge releases or something. But I was just wondering how many complaints we had, and it probably wasn't that big a burden. Now, I haven't looked at the 2009 resolution to see if it has a similar thing, because that wasn't what was addressed. I'll be happy to look at that. But I hadn't really addressed that one. But in some respects, it's good to still have something in place, because if you don't, and somebody wants to do something about it, there's no mechanism to help the situation. If you've got a resolution in place that requires it, then that provides an opportunity for the government to do it, or even private action can be done in some situations. And we could afford private action in situations that we weren't equipped to have. We could put that in place. But I don't really think there could be some liability if we got a resolution and we say we're going to do these things in it we can't do. If we specify our limitations in it and put some ways, alternatives where neighbors can bring action and so forth, then I think that relieves that obligation right there. That helps.
I know CTAS said earlier in discussion with him, said something to the effect, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Clark, but that if the county legislative body has adopted, like in this case, the 2009 maintenance code, and you're not enforcing it, then that may open up the county for different liability issues. So the thought was, if you just simply opt out of it, then that could protect the county, give the county some protection. One other issue that was discussed in planning commission, and I'm not speaking for Mr. Morris over there, but you get into a dollar factor. How much do you appropriate in a tight budget to try to clean up the county? You know, do you put 50,000 there, or 100,000, or 500,000? And another issue that came up: what if you have an abandoned property, and then you're taking that property back, and then you get in a situation where there's been a meth lab there, or you get into environmental situations with all kinds of chemicals out there, and that EPA gets involved? How far do you go with that? So that's just something we're just tossing out for you folks to consider tonight.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
since we have a CTAS representative here with us, maybe he would like to address this issue.
You may or may not have encountered this one before, but Charlie, if you have anything to add to this discussion, you're certainly welcome. It's there's two sides to this coin for sure.
Well, one thought I had while I was listening to the people going back and forth, it's going to cost this county one way or the other. People are not taking care of their outside of their homes and their property, and it's devaluing their neighbors. That's impacting your tax base.
Yes, sir.
I mean, it's like a stray dog. My mom used to say, don't pet it and don't feed it, it'll go away. Well, this one ain't a stray dog, it ain't going away. You're going to have to fix it or live with it. That's about as simple as I can tell you. You just got to make up your mind. But what the county attorney said makes perfect good sense to me. if you have a resolution that the citizens of this county got the right to submit a problem in writing, and their name is kept anonymous, and somebody's going to take that and go before the judge, get some kind of judgment to make them clean it up. You're not going to spend a lot of money doing that, but you're the ones holding the reins, not me. Anybody have any other questions? Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Chairman.
Charlie. I know we've had a couple, occasions in the past where it's my understanding that a person was cited to court, came to court, and then at the end of our officials staying there throughout the entire day, I think the judge has said, Mr. Jones, if you would please clean your yard up or whatever, I'll give you 30 days and case dismissed and whatever. So that's another issue that we've had plenty of support from apparently from the judicial process.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
My other comment, I'll try to be brief with it. We've heard the issue of liability of not enforcing what you have, and I'll address that too, I hope. But we have an issue where this is a fee-based department. They charge fees to pay for their services, and they ought to be able to provide the services that's on our books for those fees. So we ought to be able to perform this with those revenue sources, in my opinion. The second part is we got into the question about liability when you're not enforcing what's on the books. If that's the case, then we got large portions of this code we need to throw out with it. I'm going to point to the fact in the area out between the two recycling places along Highway 55 and on the Old Manchester Highway. There's 12 new businesses out there. Not one of those is zoned commercial. Not one of them's applied for commercial. They started operation, they're operating commercial places. I've seen that across this county. I've gone to look to see what's been zoned. In those cases, they're not. They're businesses that are just operating for whatever reason, but they didn't come through the process and we've done nothing about it. So if that's going to be our basis of how we're going to decide what codes we have, then I'm more inclined to say, and why do we have any of them? And let's just go back to what we used to have and not have any codes.
Mr.
Other
Chairman.
discussion? Yes, sir.
Yes, I'd like to ask Attorney Husky if he was able to get an answer to his question about how many written complaints have been filed since this resolution.
I just sent that email this afternoon, so I really didn't expect a response to that unless Larry goes off top and see if he's had it.
I do not know. We get several complaints, a lot of them won't put it in writing, but I couldn't answer how many complaints we get in one time.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Cunningham.
having worked back there in that office in the past, one common problem which I think maybe we could get a little more judicial help with is that when codes goes to the courts aren't very helpful to help us enforce that. So a lot of time is spent sitting there, so your wheels are rolling, but we don't really get anywhere. We don't have any teeth at the end of the day to help support following through to help clean up the maintenance on it, which further adds costs with the time and things like that. Plus, if someone doesn't do it, we don't have any funds to clean it up if they don't. Just speaking from experience, that's kind of been the roadblock for taking care of property maintenance issues in the past, just saying.
I know, Commissioner,
Mr. Mayor, have you talked to any of the judicial court system to see if they could help us out on this? By not making it wait all day and not, like you said, just to fix it and it's dismissed?
no, ma'am, we can do that if that's what the will of this body is for us to do. We've researched this and talked about it. Mr. Clark and I have talked about this for hours and hours, and every day we're in discussion about different codes issues, whatever. And I know this is, Mr. Kelly is right, this is a fee-based office, and last fiscal year, I think the fees generated through this office, counting the permit fees coming in from Bonnaroo and for inspections was like $140,200, and our budget for the year is about $105. So I know in talking with codes officials in Murfreesboro, of course that's a lot of larger county, and I understand that their budget down there is 2-point-something million, and they have to call for an office, get plumbing, and get whatever, and how far do we want to expand this? That's a decision for folks to make. We'll do whatever this body directs us to do. They will be price to pay, and Mr. Curtis is right, either way we go, we make it. And I even talked with the sheriff regarding the use of trustees to go out and clean up sites if we have to. And he was certainly in agreement. I think that may have been done before, Frank, on some basis, but then you come back to the liability issue. What if one of those people gets broken leg or whatever out there, and then the county's open to whatever kind of stuff. So I don't see that as a viable option. But Commissioner Hargraves.
I'd like to ask if we could table this, and if you would be willing to talk to some of the judges and, see what kind of problems we've had, and see if that could help the situation. And refer to the next meeting. How do I say it?
Well, you got two options. You can postpone it to the next meeting, or you can table it, and table it, it doesn't come back up if somebody takes it from the table. And it needs to be taken from the table within a 3-month period of time. So you can make a motion to postpone it to the next meeting, that makes it come back up to the next meeting. Or you can simply table it, and it won't come up until somebody takes it from the table.
Okay, I'd like to postpone it to the next meeting, let the mayor or whoever check with the judges and see if they can help us out on this
Be glad to.
situation.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Second by Commissioner Shelton. That can be discussed.
Mr. Chairman, of course, we've got a tough budget situation this year, not unlike most years in the past. And I am very reluctant to add, any positions and any additional expenditures into that budget. And as Mr. Kelly was mentioning about fees, fees are there. And of course, I feel that, we don't need to be increasing fees and impacting other people in other capacities that are paying those fees adversely, where maybe we're putting more of the monkey on their back for some of these issues. Now, as far as using revenues within that department and fees generated to possibly add a position that would be multi-purpose, not only in this area, but in other needs that we have in this department. I feel like I can support that, but not adding any additional cost to the budget.
The discussion needs to be limited as well enough to postpone.
Mr. Chairman, is there any way to amend that to make, since we're postponing it anyway, to see how many written complaints have been filed?
If the person who made the motion and the person who seconded are in agreement with that being added to it, it can do that without having to have a formal amendment.
Commissioner Hargraves, are you okay with that?
That's fine with me.
Okay. So we amended to check on written complaints. Yes, sir.
Actually, the resolution that's before you is the one dealing only with the international code. The other resolution is prior 2008-36 that was passed, drawn up, and passed specifically, and that's one that talks about the grounds and so forth. This resolution before you doesn't have anything to do with it. The research was done merely to see whether or not anything needs to be changed about it. It's that 2008 resolution that requires the written complaints. I did a quick look in this 2009, and I didn't see a mechanism like that. It just places the burden on the money charge codes to city stuff. It doesn't have provision for, in the alderman, but it's dealing with a different thing. The alderman can be professional in regard to most of the things in this code, whereas on looking at the outside and seeing whether there's junk cars piled out there, it's a different scenario. So if that helps clarify anything, I think we more need a professional in this code than we do for the other. Or you keep them both.
And we do get a lot of calls. I know I had two yesterday on two of the wildest issues, and I'm sure Coast Department gets a lot more than we do.
We get a lot of calls, but we don't have a lot in writing. We get a lot of calls, but we can have them come in and put them in writing. But we've been telling them there's not anything we can do, because there's not anything we can do until we get funds to do it with.
So we have a motion on the floor. Second. To postpone to the next meeting. Any further discussion? If not, let's vote, please. And we'll be glad to research and do whatever the body requests us to do.
Anyone want to change your vote? Yes.
20 yes. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, before, just to,
Yes, sir.
that whole thing just rang with me is a rural issue. And in the next month, it just seems, I don't know, it seems like some committee, the motion wanted to refer to a committee, but I would hope there would be some committee that would put that on their agenda before the next commission meeting, and try to flush out, because again, these property owners, I think, need some protection, or at least some redress to, if they have some maintenance issues. But it is a rural issue, so guys, I hope somebody, some rural commissioners will step up and get involved in that.
And we could defer that to planning commission to be reviewed again.
Rush up, I guess I'm a little concerned, it's not in my mind completely a real issue because it affects the tax base of the county, and that affects all of us.
That's the secondary issue, but the primary, I think, is being certain that, I think citizens have a way of not taking care of their property for, anyway.
Does that need complaints to
There are some complaints that are on the table. I know I had one gentleman that called 3 weeks ago regarding he bought property through the clerk of master sale, and I think it required 3 dumpsters to clean up the site with 60-something tires and whatever. And had a call yesterday on someone that had a dead horse across the road in a neighbor's driveway, and had been there for several days. And I said, you can have the horse, and he had to share it because it was really smelling up the neighborhood. You never know what you're, and then I called Animal Control. It wasn't there because they deal with small animals, and it wasn't a sheriff department issue, and it wasn't a codes issue. And then I called the ag department, and it was a dead animal removal service that we're paying bucks to have those animals removed. So I gave the family the number, and of course then she's got to give that to the neighbor across the road, hoping that they will call to have them removed. So you never know.
Can I ask a question?
You gotta go. Did it go? Okay. Yes, sir.
If we were to enforce the property maintenance, and I'm asking because I don't know, I'm new to this, but if we were to enforce the property maintenance, Lakewood Park's in Coffee County, is that correct? So would that mean that we would have to go into Lakewood Park and enforce all the cleanup in that area as well?
And that's another call I had on someone in Lakewood Park.
That's private development, that's their, they are in charge of their own private development. The county's not obligated to do that.
I just sent back an email or letter to the lady that you need to check with the trustees of your homeowner association, and that's an issue for y'all to resolve.
Now, they are in Coffee County. I
Yes, sir.
have had that comment made to me. You mean I pay taxes in Coffee County, and I can't get you guys to come out and do it. So So I was just trying to clarify.
And as we review this, I guess we'll need to review the addition, obviously, of another employee to the codes department, because Mr. Clark simply does not have the time to be spread so thin already. We have 14, thankfully, 14 different inspections he had to make in one day with several new starts, which I'm glad to hear. But anyway, I appreciate his professionalism and all he's doing, but we will need some more help for that department.
The resolution 2015-20, resolution to opt out of section R313 automatic fire sprinkler systems of the 2009 International Residential Code.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Commissioner Morris, second? Second. Second by Commissioner Brown, discussion.
Could we have Larry come up and explain?
Yes, Larry, did you?
Again, since this was not signed off on by two commissioners, Bobby, I presume you're...
Yes, I'll sponsor.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Kent, for bringing this attention. Thank you, Bobby, for signing that as a sponsor. Mr. Clark.
When we adopted the 09 code book, I misread the code book, and it says that in the code book that after 2011, you have to enforce the fire sprinklers in residential construction. I was under the impression, because we had adopted the 09 code book, that we'd be out, but in the 09 book, it reads that effective after January 2011, that you have to, new residential construction has to have fire sprinkler system. So we adopted this, and I talked to the state fire marshal's office about it, as well as the state inspectors, and they have informed me that even though I'm not enforcing it, that I need to have you guys pass for we're not enforcing it to be legal, because we're not requiring anyone to put fire sprinklers in their house now, but they said, the state said it would be better that if we're not going to enforce it, to opt out. Of course, we're not enforcing it as of now, unless you guys want it. It is quite an expense to build it, as well as I understand in some cases that it could require insurance rates to be higher. But that's the reason we're asking to opt out. The state opted out. The way they done it, they adopted the building code, and then they opted out, like I'm requesting to do tonight.
Further discussion?
I guess I'll ask a question, and this is for understanding. It seems to me that since this does really go into the rural areas, and that's where we have, I'll say, secondary fire protection. We don't have full-time fire protection. We've got volunteer fire departments and not the full-time fire department. So is taking this out something that is good or bad for the people who are out there? And I guess I know what would happen if I built a house outside of, Tullahoma or Manchester. To build that house, my wife would put in a sprinkler system. And I understand that means that if it gets triggered, something gets flooded. So there's some additional insurance costs that might come up with it.
You do have to have a certain amount of water flow. A lot of times that's a problem out in the rural areas. You don't have the right amount of water pressure.
Good point. Further discussion?
Have a lot of carriers opted out of this, a lot of counties.
I don't know of any areas that are enforcing it. Rutherford County may be, but I'm not aware of it. I know the state's not. They have adopted, they had the 09 code book, and they opted out, and I'm pretty sure if they've adopted the 012, they're going to opt out, because
increases the cost. They do have a dry chemical type sprinkler, and I'm not really real familiar with it, but a lot of the problems were not only flooding, but sometimes they would freeze. The sprinklers would, you know, and then of course you got to have the proper amount of water flow, as I stated to Mr. Bill. So it is pretty good of an expense, you know, to ask the builders to do. And of course, I had talked with the state at the Tennessee Fire Codes Academy. They have a class that we're required to go to, and I asked some of the state, one of the state inspectors, as well as some of the instructors there, and they have opted out for that reason. But I mean, they advised me that if we don't opt out, we have to enforce it, or we should, because we could get into again a liability issue. So they said bring it before the commission and opt out if we weren't going to enforce it with the way they had done it in the past.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Any other discussion? Other discussion? Let's vote, please. Yes, one no. Thank you, Commissioner. Roxanne?
Resolution 2015-21, resolution to amend the Coffee County zoning resolution number 2006-39 to rezone the property currently owned by Bobby and Vicky Gilly located on Murfreesboro Highway from C1 Rural Center District to C2 General Commercial District.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion second to approve. Discussion. We did conduct a public hearing a while ago regarding this issue.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to amend the resolution to include the description that was provided to our attorney by purchase of this property, and to specify in the resolution that only 1.49 acres of this approximately 8-acre tract is being considered here.
Mr. Bryan, someone called Mr. Gilly right after the public meeting, right before 6 o'clock, and he said he was okay with the entire 8-acre parcel being C2. But if you want to amend that.
So that took place after the hearing,
Yes.
correct?
I think one of the commissioners stepped out and called Mr. Gilly. Which the commission didn't know that.
I'll withdraw that.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any further discussion?
One other question.
Yes,
With, I'm going to say more than half of it left over, is there, I guess there's plans or someone's trying to expand that even further in the future? Is that the idea of the entire tract then?
Yes, there was some discussion regarding that being part of that, the other part of that parcel being divided later, or subdivided later. Am I correct on that? Yes.
I have a question, and I haven't seen the parcel, so this is my reason for asking. There's at least 50 foot on the public highway after you get your part? Yes. Okay. That was all.
Thanks. Okay. Other discussion? There being none, let's vote, please. Yeah, you dropped. Your commission writing dropped. Yeah, we do. Well, yes. Thank you, Commission.
10F, budget amendments.
first amendment is for the schools. It's 141, 2015-2. This one has no change to the unassigned fund balance. Next one, 101, 2015-5. This is amending the jail budget, returning $662,200 to the unassigned fund balance. Next one is 101, 2015-6. This one also returns $114,419 to the unassigned fund balance. This one's the Highway Department, 131, 2015-7. This is an increase to the unassigned fund balance of $32,877. Next one, Rural Solid Waste, 116, 2015-8. This increases the unassigned fund balance $25,619. Next one is Local Purpose Tax, 120, 2015-9. Increase to the unassigned fund balance $24,012. Next one, other enterprise operations, 259, 2015-10. Increase to the unassigned fund balance of $13,117. Drug Control Fund, 122, 2015-11. Increase to the unassigned fund balance $3,102. Last one is General Debt Service, 151, 2015-12. This is a decrease to the unassigned fund balance of $140,133.
The decrease is prepaid interest.
Decrease is due to converting the bonds, the bond anticipation notes,
To a lower interest.
yes, to the rural development bonds.
Do we have a motion?
A motion to approve.
Do we have a second to the motion? Second by Commissioner Duncan. Discussion. Any discussion? There being none, let's vote please. I'll be right there. Same. Yes. Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, 10G, other new business. Reports from standing committees.
Commissioner Brickett.
I would like to just give a preliminary report from the Budget and Finance Commissioners. At our first June meeting, you will be receiving the preliminary budget reports. So just to keep your eye on a couple of focus points, if you have a pencil and paper, you can just, make a couple of notes. With these budget amendments that we approved tonight, the fund balance that we estimate that will begin next fiscal year will be about $1.5 million. The current general fund budget that we have at this stage has expenditures over revenues by $850,000. If we don't fund that $850,000 with the property tax, it will go into that general fund balance of $1.5 million and bring it down to $750,000. So one thing I want y'all to be thinking about is what you think is the appropriate general fund balance. For new commissioners, our low general fund balance has been an issue for years and years and years. A county of our size, having a fund balance under $1 million down to $500,000 puts an extremely strain on the cash flows of our county, and we every year have to go into bond tax anticipation notes to fund. So it's doable, but it's an issue. So right now we've got an $850,000 general fund shortfall that now exists in the general fund budget for next year. So that number will change, I'm sure, but I don't know of any significant changes coming through. The county schools presented their budget the other night. They're requesting $1,443,000 more than last year's budget. Of course, if that amount holds, that has to be doubled because of the ADA requirement. So that's $2.8 million. And again, a penny raises $100,000, so that's 28 cents. And our last year's general uniform tax rate is $2.87. So if we don't do anything to that budget, that's a 10% property tax increase. And there's a good chance three major components of the school's budget is 2% salary raises of $443,000 and $400,000 for 4 new school buses there. Last year, the school buses got funded, the request for additional school buses were funded from, I think, the infrastructure, rural infrastructure, the rural infrastructure. I get that out there. I think rural debt service. Maybe rural debt, one of the rural funds. So I'm sure that will come up as a suggestion. Whether they'll get approved or not, I don't know. But, so if that does, they'll bring their request to $1 million. A significant amount that y'all need to obviously be pondering over the next several weeks. So that is, I think that's the highlights. It's kind of right now where the budget looks. So we'll see that that'll be the preliminary budget. We will not be voting on that on the June 6th meeting, I think. That is the date of the next meeting. June 6th, 9th. One of those days. Whatever the first meeting in June is. But it will be presented. But we certainly hope to try to resolve, the fine-tune the final budget so we can vote it in at the last meeting in June, so we can begin the fiscal year with a budget. And you're going to hear from citizens and all on pros and cons of any major budget, so just kind of warm yourself up, especially your new commissioners. So I'll stop there.
Thank you for that update from Budget and Finance. Other standing committee reports?
One other question really for Mr. Berkey to elaborate on. There is some new changes if we don't have a budget in place for us to do tax anticipation notes and reporting and things. So there's some other requirements that may be levied against us to make it, I'll say, a little more difficult going forward.
Well, I really don't want to get into details. I don't anticipate this body, I hope this body will vote for a budget by the end of June. If not, we will have a meeting in July. Guys, we're going to have to step up one way or the other or make some decisions. Because I certainly don't want this county to go late into the next budget year without a budget. And the numbers don't change. You just got to make some hard decisions.
As far as, I would like to challenge the Budget and Finance to really look at that potential budgets that's going to come across your committee and pull them coat strings very tight, because I don't see how we can go another 28 cents.
Mr. Mayor, from the standpoint of ambulance authority, I guess the one thing that's coming up that we're looking at before the end of the year is to try to get one of the Sprint ambulances acquired and get it into service. And hopefully that will help us in the long term as we move towards that kind of vehicle. Because really you can drive them and sell them for a little bit and replace them a lot cheaper than just remounting the old vehicles.
Thank you, Mr. Galvin. Report of any other standing committees? Appreciate y'all doing that. I encourage our standing committees to give a brief report every meeting to apprise our legislative body and the public as to what's going on in their respective areas. Yes, sir.
I did think of one other, and we've got a couple of meetings coming up that make people aware of it. We'll be contacting the constables because we're talking about constables. There's been a change in the Tennessee code concerning constables that we're going to look at one legislative session. We're going to invite them to come and provide us some pros and cons and discussions. And because of that, we're also going to be looking at road commissioners, and we will be inviting the road commissioners to come and have a join the meeting and provide their views of the world so that we can fully understand the questions that come up.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Any other committee reports?
Any special committees? Statements and announcements.
One announcement. May 29th, Reagan Day dinner at the Convention Center. Need information or need tickets. I don't remember the number, so I'm going to probably go on the limb. Call my wife, Jean, at 247-5249.
I'm glad you gave out that number, not me. Any other statements or announcements? If not, public comments. Anyone from the public want to address the body? You're welcome. There being no public comments, do I have a motion to adjourn? Second.